I have your bio here.
Oh, God. Yeah. Okay.
Guess where I got it from? ChatGPT.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh. Do you want to hear what ChatGPT says about you?
No, absolutely not.
No.
You're listening to Conscious Mind.
So when you ask, who is Peter Fonagy? Peter Fonagy, PhD, is a prominent British psychoanalyst and clinical psychologist known for his work on mentalization and attachment theory, particularly in the treatment of borderline personality disorder. He is a leading figure in child development and mental health research, serving as the chief executive of the Anna Freud Centre and a professor at University College London. Is it accurate?
Totally.
Wow, okay, 1 for 1. There's a few more. So before we get started, tell us a little bit about the Anna Freud Centre. So we're here obviously at Silver Hill Hospital. How do they compare? What type of work is done at the Anna Freud Centre?
The Anna Freud Centre has 3 legs. Okay, it has a leg that's clinical, and another one that's training, and a third one that's research, and they're kind of roughly equal. Silver Hill more clinical than either teaching or research. Anna Freud, when she established the center now over 70 years ago, already had this idea that you want to combine training, research with clinical work. You make clinical work the subject of research, and you make the research the material for training. Bringing those things together makes for, I believe, a vibrant organization that is never satisfied with itself. It always tries to move and become more complicated, even more difficult to understand, and I think more valuable. But I would say that because as a chief executive, if I didn't...
That might be a problem.
Yeah, it might be a problem.
Yeah, and you're going to be on the internet talking about it, so...
Yeah.
But that's great. I mean, that's advancing science, right? Always thinking about what's next. And actually, some of the questions I'm going to ask you today have a lot to do with being future-oriented. But I did promise you a warm-up question.
Okay.
we're going to go back in time. Our listeners may notice that you are not from the United States from your voice and your accent. Although I hear a hint of a couple accents, I think, in your accent, if I'm right. But you're from the UK, but not originally.
That's absolutely right. So what you hear is a Hungarian accent. Mm-hmm. And I was born in Hungary and lived there for 15 years. When the family moved to France, my father got a job there. But I was, for reasons that nobody has understood, was sent over to England to have my education. Unfortunately, I couldn't speak any English. Unfortunately, I lived with a family that weren't necessarily the best example of British culture, and I got quite depressed. And it so happened that in the street in Kew Gardens, where we lived, there was someone who knew about the Hampstead Child Therapy Clinic. And I was doing really badly educationally. I was failing exams. I failed more exams than you had hot dinners. I really did badly. And they referred me to the center, and I had a wonderful therapist by the name of Anne Hurry. And I had a year of therapy, and I started passing exams. It was like magic. And Hampstead Clinic then became the Anna Freud Centre, and I've remained indebted to that organization ever since.
Wow.
Because I've kind of given my life to it.
And it gave your life to you.
Exactly. That's exactly my sentiment. It gave me my life.
Wow.
And therefore, I was going to give it mine.
So you didn't speak any English when you moved?
None.
So were you doing your therapy in
Well,
what language?
Well, I was learning as if I had 2 years of being in abject misery, of really being quite depressed. I had suicidal ideation. I had a plan of how I was going to take my own life. It was really, I was not in a happy place. If I was, as a clinician, meeting myself, I would be worried about this, 16, 17-year-old boy who had nobody. And, he seemed to be kind of bright, but he was failing exams all the time. So it was in a bad situation. But therapy was just a wonderful thing for me. And then, although I didn't pursue that line for quite a long time, but it just showed me what he could achieve.
Right. Yeah. And funny enough, when I asked ChatGPT fun facts about you, because I can do that too, what are some fun facts about Dr. Fonagy? ChatGPT told me, and you can tell me if this is true or false, were you a chess prodigy?
No, I was not. This is false.
That's interesting. Okay, got that one wrong.
Yeah, it got it wrong. If it had said that I used to play soccer or football quite enthusiastically, that would be accurate. I wouldn't say I was a prodigy, but I was quite good, and that's what helped me survive in England. When I was in that depression, I went to a terrible school, really bad school, but there was at the time an exam that everyone at age 11 had to pass or fail. And if you passed, you went to a good school. If you failed, you went to a bad school. And I was sent to bad school because I wasn't there at age 11. So what helped me survive was that I played soccer. That made you popular. Otherwise, you got bullied terribly. But and I still got quite badly bullied, but at least I could play soccer, and they wanted me on their team.
Right. And that's a sport in the UK that's very
that's
treasured.
That's the sport in the UK. There are no other sports.
And you don't call it soccer.
We call it football.
Football, yeah.
But I didn't want to confuse the audience.
Thank you. When you're on this side of the pond.
Yeah, exactly.
American football is quite a different thing.
Yeah.
So, all right. So turning back to, the subject of psychology and people and what interests you. So these are some of the core questions we always ask our guests because it's really at the heart of the Conscious Mind show. Is what really fascinates you about people, humans in general? Like what really interests you when you think about the psychology of people?
I think most people would respond the same way to this, and it's the complexity that you can't possibly understand any human being, no matter how close you are with them, and it's endlessly interesting and intriguing. And I'm a psychoanalyst, and the reason I always enjoyed psychoanalysis as a practice is because you find out so much about it. It may not be the most effective treatment that's known to man or woman, but actually you find out so much about a single person, and it's endlessly interesting. How they think, what they're worried about, how something that happens affects them, and how different I would react or how they react. And it's just a wonderful opportunity to see the world for real as if it was fiction. I mean, you could read a very good novel and you'd have the same kind of experience. But actually, when you're working with someone, you're trying to help as best you can, and you're finding out about them. It's like reading the best novel that you could possibly read. And I just love that kind of engagement with other human beings. And, I would love talking to you off radio and just hearing about you and hearing about your parents, and you told me a little bit about your dad. I just love to go into that.
You love hearing people's stories.
Yes.
And what I'm getting from this is that one of the most fascinating things about people is that you can never really fully understand people.
Absolutely. And there's always, it's like a mountain that you can never get to the top of. And, you just get to another, and then there is another one. And then there's another hill behind it. It's something that you can never get tired of.
It keeps it interesting. And I have to wonder that if science took us to a place where we were able to understand everything about how human beings work and how the brain works, do we really want that? Because does that take away some of the uniqueness and mystery of being human? Like if we keep seeking the answers in our field, because psychiatry is one of those fields in psychology where you don't have you don't always have the MRI or the blood test or whatever to tell you definitively what's going on. If we were able to do that, and that actually ties into my next question of, putting ourselves in a time machine and going 30 years into the future, where do we think the field will be? At a certain point, do we lose the magic and the mystery if we over analyze?
To be honest, the history of human beings shows that progress doesn't actually achieve very much. We are pretty much the same that we were in Greek and Roman times. Wow. And people actually don't benefit that much from progress. They unfortunately, or fortunately, remain pretty much the same. So do I worry about that people will suddenly be understood once science has got better? No.
Yeah.
Do I think that it would be better if we understood what upsets people, what makes life difficult for people? I'd like to understand it better. I'd like to know more. I'd like to be able to help more. But do I think that people will need less help as a consequence overall? No. There'll be just new problems. Mm-hmm. And that's really has been the history of mankind. We don't die average age 30 anymore. We now die average age 85 or whatever it is, but we still die.
And we're still discovering new things, though, as people are getting older and new issues are coming up.
Exactly.
We're evolving, right? Yeah. Somewhat.
Yeah. So, I don't worry about it, people not being a problem anymore. But even if we discovered more, what I do worry about a little bit, and that just talks to your ChatGPT example, is that if machines can replicate the way that people think, that I think is a bit of a risk for human beings. A bit like, nuclear fusion is a bit of a risk, or genetic engineering is a bit of a risk. That we can know too much, and that can destroy not so much the magic of trying to find out, but the magic of being a human being.
Right.
We can destroy ourselves is really what I'm much more concerned about.
So I take it you are not someone who believes that sitting with a robotic therapist in 30 years is going to be better than sitting with a human therapist.
What I do worry about is that people will feel that it's better. And that's a very different worry. I deeply, deeply believe in the importance of human relationships, that what actually makes us human is the ability to collaborate with another human being, or the ability of, like in this studio, there are three of us working together with a single aim of making something that's even vaguely entertaining for people to listen to.
I think we're doing okay on that.
Well, up and down, but
yeah.
But the point is that we're collaborating, and that I don't think you can achieve with a machine. That joy of being together being a we, being a group, even if it's a small group of just 3 or 2, that is what's unique about human beings, and that is what I enjoy personally, but I think also what makes it worthwhile for being
Right.
human.
And we are social beings in every sense of the word, and yeah, people can't really survive without other people. I mean, it's in the nature of who we are.
Absolutely. Illness becomes wellness when the I is replaced by a we.
Ah, I like that. Illness becomes wellness when the I is replaced with we.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So a lot to think about there, but it's the way that you articulate all of that. I mean, our producer here, Dave, knows, I think most of our episodes of this show are on this subject of human connection, right? Like it always comes back. It always comes back to that. And so the future is a little bit of a daunting thing. It's possible that we will make great advances in healthcare, in mental health care. It's possible that we think, oh, this, AI thing is going to be everything. And then we realize, 10, 20, 30 years down the road, oh, whoops, we shouldn't have done that. That's not what it's all about. Do you see like a middle path somewhere along the way where we can advance the field and stay relevant with technology and that direction without losing that human connection?
Okay, it's a really good question, Molly. It's a really good question. I think that I'm not about to diss technological advances, but technological advances must be there to support human endeavor. If AI supports my work as a therapist, I welcome it. If AI pretends that they can do something that I'm doing with another human being at the moment, that's worrying, because that human being is being taken advantage of, because they, in their brain, think that they are linking up with another human. But the machine is pretending to be human.
Authentic.
It's not authentic. It's not a real human. It's a parrot.
Right.
And I am worried not for my job, but the vulnerability that it creates for that other person who is under an illusion that they are talking to a fellow human when they're actually talking to a machine.
Right.
That's what I'm worried about.
Right. And what the impact of that will be
On
a massive scale, too.
Exactly.
I mean, chatbots already exist.
Yeah.
And they're expected to evolve. But I'm with you in that I don't think anything can replace a human-to-human conversation. No. So I think about this subject a lot, which is my path in life, where I'm going, what I'm doing, why I'm doing it. And you have had a long and successful career doing what you're doing. And from what it sounds like from this interview, you are doing exactly what you are meant to be doing. It's almost like it was written in the stars, right? Like you had this transformative relationship that connected you directly to the place that you ended up running and still are. I have to wonder, though, in this long span of time, do you ever think about what other paths you could have taken or what else you could have been or been good at, and had like any sort of fantasies about what your life could have been if you had taken another path?
Like every other person, I think about that all the time. But
glad to know I'm not alone.
Yeah, exactly. But what would I have loved to have been is an airline pilot. That's what I really wanted to be.
I can see that. You kind of look like you could be an airline pilot.
Well,
I don't know why. There's a demographic or something.
I would have loved to have been an airline pilot, and I love flying, and I would have loved to have that as a career. Unfortunately, that just wasn't, and would have never, probably would have been a complete failure as an airline pilot. Never. Having said that, I'm really glad that I ended up where I did, and I'm doing what I'm doing. I have major regrets that I'm interested in so many things that I sometimes feel that I don't do anything well enough. If I could just focus my mind more on just one thing, I would do better. Here I am trying to be a therapist. I'm trying to be a scientist. I'm trying to do all kinds of things. Why don't you just do the one thing, Fonagy, and just do it well? But that, I think, that was never to be.
Wouldn't it be boring to just do one? I mean, isn't variety the spice of life?
Maybe so. I mean, here you are doing a number of things in your job, which I really appreciate, and I can certainly see the value of. I'm just thinking, when I have regrets, what could I have achieved if I could have focused better on one thing? And it's what the hell is the point in doing that?
Right.
Yeah.
And you can live with it, right?
Yeah.
You're like, well,
Exactly.
that's not going to keep me up all night.
No, you're not going to keep it. But you asked me, did I want to choose a different path? Not so much. I chose too many paths. I just maybe focusing on one path a little bit more and a little bit better would have served me better. But too late now.
I'm similar in that way where I feel like you have this one life to live, and I don't know what happens after and all that. But what can I do with this time that I have, and impact that I can make, but also things that inspire me and are interesting, and it's something I spend a lot of time thinking about. So I'm glad to know that I'm not alone in that way of thinking.
I actually think the two of us aren't alone.
Yeah, there's
I think
many
probably
people.
all three of us here, but they're
about
just
that.
three.
Yeah. And so you said you like flying. I happen to be terrified of flying.
Oh, really?
And as a psychoanalyst, what can you tell me about my fear of flying?
Not a lot. If I knew you better,
Yeah,
maybe
you
I'd be
would know.
able to say something. But I can tell you that there was a period of my life when I was frightened of flying as well, and it turned out it was a time of my life when I was a bit lost, and fear of flying actually was a particular way that I found that anxiety found its way into my mind. I don't think that it's incurable, fear of flying. I think you can actually do something about it if you wanted to.
Yeah, the more you do it, the better. I do fly. I don't avoid it. I know I'm, in my other life, I'm a therapist as well, and I treated a lot of people with anxiety disorders and phobia. So I like rationally understand all of the things. It's just when I get on the plane, I can't help but be, it just hits me. So I've learned ways.
Did you get worried when it kind of starts bumping?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Turbulence. I don't.
I tell you,
don't love it.
turbulence. The pilot once explained to me, I happened to be sitting next to on a plane, said, look, you don't expect, when you're on a road, you don't expect that road to be flat. Mm-hmm. Why do you expect the air to be flat? Along a road, it's just it's just like an unmade up road in the countryside.
Yeah. One thing that ChatGPT was correct about is another interesting fact about Peter Fonagy is that he was initially discouraged from entering the field of psychology because of his poor academic performance in early school years.
Yeah, that's
accurate.
Totally accurate.
Okay.
I'd like to talk about an aspect of it because
Yes.
I want to speak to the people who did badly at school. And I was not just, I failed a lot of exams, and in England, to get into a good university, you have to have an unblemished record. And there was no chance that I would ever get to university because I had so many failures. As it happened, University College London interviewed me, which they did at the time, and I had a wonderful interview with then junior lecturer, a guy called Phil Johnson Laird, who became a very major psycholinguist at Princeton, person who's a psychology of language specialist, very important figure in the subject, and a very brilliant man. But he interviewed me, and we had a very good conversation. And after the interview, every other university rejected me. UCL offered me the lowest possible grade that you could get at an exam. He obviously spotted that this wasn't going to go anywhere very good. So there was the Anna Freud Centre, there was UCL, and these were the two organizations that saved my life. And I've become loyal to both. I had lots of job offers from other universities because I made a name for myself. But I never wanted to leave UCL, I never wanted to leave Anna Freud. And I think that if there's an attractive aspect of my personality, which there may not be, ask my wife about it, she will be a bit more hesitant. But I'm a loyal person.
Yes.
If people help me, then I try and return that in some way by shaping my life around that gratitude. And I think gratitude, the ability to show gratitude, is an incredible human privilege. And I'm really, really grateful to have been given the opportunity to feel and express gratitude. I think if I have to summarize in a sentence what I have learned in life, that there are two things that really matter. One is kindness and the other is gratitude. Beyond that, there is very little that's meaningful.
And with gratitude, it works both ways because it feels good to express gratitude, but it also feels good to the person that is receiving your gratitude. And it's interesting because our patients and residents here, I mean, every group before at the end of the evening, what's one thing that you're grateful for? It's weaved into the programming here. And just like you say, it is a uniquely human thing. And there's something about it that just brings you to a better place in the moment.
No, I totally agree. And it's a very precious feeling, one that you should, if you're really able to feel it, then you treasure it and try and hold on to it for as long as possible. That sense of gratitude, not just because of what you say, that it is a kindness to somebody else, that you're showing gratitude for what they've done. But it's also something to me that you are restoring yourself. You're restoring something in yourself. I've recognized at this moment how much I owe another human being. And that is restorative massively. Mm-hmm. There used to be a radio program in London. They stopped it now, but one part of it was where you gave an opportunity for people to say thank you to someone that they were grateful to, but they never had the chance to say thank you to. So, somebody who'd helped them, but then walked off. The idea of it was that person may hear, that's a radio program, so that person may accidentally be listening.
Oh, wow.
And heard that acknowledgement of something that they had done.
So is there anyone out there that you want to express gratitude to that you've lost and that they may find through this radio interview?
Oh, but that's a really good question. My wife, I would want to express gratitude, and my children. Not that they would ever listen to anything that I ever did, but
maybe this one.
Yeah. And also more local. And the reason that I'm here on this radio program and in this place is Andrew Gerber, who has taught me a great deal. He was a student of mine, but actually taught me a great deal, and I have very deep respect for what he has done, and the massive gratitude for him having been my friend over the years.
I believe when I interviewed him on the show that he also mentioned you. There's mutual gratitude there. Yeah. And I am very grateful to you for spending time with me today and talking to me about all these interesting topics and getting to know you a little bit better. I mean, obviously we work together and have been in board meetings together, but I think the magic of a program like this is you really get to see other sides of people and what makes them tick and what they're all about. And I've had the pleasure of doing that with a lot of our physicians on this show. And some of our clinicians, so it's great to have you.
Thank you, Molly.
Thank you. You've been listening to Conscious Mind on Silver Hill Radio.